Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ongoing Mastery, Presenting and Speaking, the podcast, and episode number, oh my God, 51.
Yay!
Go us. All right. So, Kellie, what are we talking about today?
Well, today we are talking about music and rhythm and flow and what that has to do with public speaking.
Fantastic. So as many of you know, I have a 16-year-old who is, like many 16-year-olds, not the most chatty human. So I take any opportunity to talk with this kid because I'm like, you're talking to me. Yes. Oh my God. And at one point he brought up, hey, here's this rapper that I think you might be interested in. And he brought up something that, if you look at it on paper, it seems like a perfect Kirsten thing. And so, Kellie, were you surprised when I told you that Brendan recommended an NPR Tiny Desk concert?
Yes, if only because I wouldn't think that NPR would have something in a rap adjacent, rap focused Tiny Desk concert, which means I'm out of the loop, and Tiny Desk concert is more in the loop than I am.
And so this is JID, and I was watching it, and here's the problem. I love music, but there's certain types of music I have trouble connecting with because I don't know the patterns and I don't know what to expect, so I feel dumb. And one of those is free-form improvisational jazz. So this concert was free-form improv jazz backing up a very fast, very proficient rapper. And
Yeah.
because of that, I just couldn't get it. And I felt frustrated. So then Brendan started showing me shorts and showing me some other people.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, some of those, like, I can start to get it. And then because Hamilton is wonderful,
Yes.
I showed him some bits of Hamilton and he was kind of like, yeah, that's fine. Um, so we're working on it. But when you discovered Hamilton, what was that like for you?
Well, I discovered Hamilton through my teenager a few years ago. I've never really been a musical theater person. It turns out I'm not a specific type of musical theater person. I love certain kinds of musical theater, but I don't really do the Rodgers and Hammerstein style. But it was musical theater, and I thought I didn't like musical theater, and so her interest was just her interest. But she received a CD for her birthday, the original cast recording, and the only place to play it is in my car. So then I started listening to it, and when I first heard about the show, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, huh, American history and rap, what a gimmick. Oh my god, I roll. I was wrong. I was very wrong. I was very, very wrong. It's
Mm.
amazing. And listening to it in the car, so in the bubble, right, in the acoustic bubble of a car, really amplified how fast and how clever the lyrics are, instead of also trying to watch the performance, which
Mm-hmm.
we have done. It's amazing.
Yes.
But yeah, I was well blown away.
Yeah, I mean the show itself, the staging,
Hmm.
oh, chef's kiss, just amazing. The acting obviously brilliant, but middle-aged white chick from Connecticut. My circle did not happen to have rap in it. I was mostly surrounded by other ghostly people that were not, basically that wasn't their musical style. And a lot of my friends are, but they recognize that it's not something that I have easily connected to. So they didn't, it's like you don't share with your friends things that your friends find frustrating. Once
Yeah.
I discovered Hamilton, I was like, oh, now I'm beginning to understand. And then I started to learn
Hmm.
that it's not just a history of the US, it's also a history of rap lesson.
Yeah.
And that he mixes in all these callbacks to all these famous instrumental like culture figures in the evolution of both rap and hip hop and sound, that this particular style that has so many branches and so many pieces to it, I could start to see the shape of it. And
Yeah.
that was really neat. I still can't, I totally respect JID's work. I still am not to where I can follow it, but I started going down the rabbit hole, and I found a rapper that responds to things, and I found a rapper that responded to Hamilton,
Yeah.
Knox Hill.
Hmm.
And Knox Hill is he's a very, he's a charismatic, telegetic, very smart guy who's an excellent performer, excellent rapper, and his response to Hamilton was wonderful. His response to Encanto is a thing of beauty that everyone should go see. It's
Okay.
really wonderful. His response is fantastic. But what I loved about it is I love the response videos. I That's one of my
Hmm.
things. I'm going to toss some dog treats because Angel is whining and she's helping us again with our podcast. Thank
Hi,
you,
Angel.
dog. There you go. But he would stop, and not only did he not need to know the lyrics in advance because his ear is tuned enough that he can pick them up instantly, even when they're very, very fast. He even teased the audience because people were saying you'd need the lyrics, and he's like, "What do you mean I need the lyrics? Really?"
Yeah.
You know. But he then was like, "Okay, this is a double. This is this. This is a callback to this. This is what this."
Hmm.
And I was starting to see the structure of it. I
Yeah.
was going, "Oh,
And
cool."
I loved his reaction to David Diggs' Guns and Ships. I'm not sure exactly what the record is, but it holds a Broadway record for most words rapped in a minute. It's some ridiculously high number. And
Mhm.
he's articulating every word. It's not just a rush, a mumble of sound.
Yeah.
If you slow it down, you can hear what every single word is. And then once you know all the words, put it back to regular pace. It's like, oh, it's impressive beyond impressive.
Mhm. Yeah. And
And this is
go ahead.
I was gonna say this is where I have to bring in my favorite 19th century poet, Lord Byron, because every time I hear Hamilton, I think of Byron's wordplay. And this is from one of his most famous poems, Don Juan. Yes, Don Juan, not Juan. It's purposeful in the rhyme scheme. And he says, "Oh, ye lords of ladies intellectual, inform us truly, have they not henpecked you all?" And so he rhymes intellectual and henpecked you all. And it remains one of my favorite little things that's clever and it catches your ear and then it really makes you think because you're
Hmm.
spending time trying to figure out, wait, did he really just say that? Yes.
Yep. Brilliant. Very, very good. So I'm just going to bring up because I want to make sure that. All right. So the rabbit hole of Kirsten discovering rap and discovering hip hop also brought me to the MIT crash course, rap and hip hop, the structure and the history. So
Lupe Fiasco.
yes, so Lupe Fiasco's rap. Oh, there it is. Rap theory and practice and introduction. I came across this. I showed this to Brendan, and Brendan, didn't really read for him, but he's like, okay, well, Lupe Fiasco's great. I'm not sure why you're watching a guy talk about what his class is going to be, but sure. But I loved his energy, I loved his presence, his teaching style, all of it, and that he was like, this class, you will be rapping, and I will fail you if you don't. And I was like, yes, that's it. Own that room, buddy. Yes. But it was lovely. And then I started watching other stuff. And again, I'm starting to see the universe of it. Fantastic. And that brought me down the rabbit hole to rap and hip hop, crash course in Black American history on YouTube. And oh my, I just like, there's so much to learn and there's so much to explore. It's amazing. What does this have to do with public speaking, Kelly? Why is this also tied to our work?
A couple of different ways. One has to do with the way language sounds, right? And all music is inherently about rhythm. rap places a special priority on flow. And that's why when a piece of writing, you're not sure how it sounds, you're not sure if it's working, if you read a piece of writing out loud, you'll be able to hear whether or not it's good, where something's not working, where it needs a bit of polish, right? That poetry of language applies to all language, music or speaking. But the other, I think, is illustrated by what you just said, ongoing mastery,
Mm-hmm.
right? You did not grow up with rap. I did not grow up with rap. I came to rap reluctantly. I grew up in Dorchester. Rap was scary to me. It was about the experience that I wasn't having, and I couldn't relate to it, but I could react to the violence in it, especially early 80s rap and the East Coast, West Coast. I didn't care for the misogyny. I couldn't get past some of those things to hear the artistry. And that's
Mm-hmm.
on me. That is on me. But the ongoing mastery quality of always learning,
Yeah.
looking for new experiences, following those rabbit holes is important for public speaking too.
Very much. The you and I mean, this is basically, we're preaching to the choir, talking to each other about this. But for the audience, it 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 frustrates both Kelly and I when we encounter speakers, and it's rare, luckily, in our circle, but we encounter speakers who are done.
Yeah.
They're done with their craft. Like, they've mastered their thing, they have their thing, they do it, but they're not branching, they're not breathing, they're not expressing.
Hmm.
And in our circle, we tend to pull in people who believe the way we do. So we're more likely to be connected to people who engage in ongoing mastery. But I find the whole, well, I've already, my favorite thing is actually Tim David, who's an excellent speaker. His quote is, "The day you stop working on your keynote is the day it starts to die."
Mm.
And it's true. Like,
Yeah.
you're never done. Um, the thing the thing that this ties back to for me is, and I've used this example in previous podcasts. So the dance troupe that I was part of
Mhm.
had a male that was part of it, and I have to be very careful when I say that, because at one point someone was frustrating enough and thought she was being cute, that before we went on stage, she said, "Oh, well, this is Desert Moon Dancers, and they're the only troupe that has a male member." And Tony turned he turned bright red, and he
How
almost
many
refused to go on
shades?
stage. Oh,
Yeah.
he went to magenta. Like,
That
and
is not
he,
good.
to this day, is still, like, we still give her the side eye for that. And that was, almost 20 years ago. Just one of those things that's like, no, not funny. But
Hmm.
his performance was different in that he's learning Egyptian stick dance for the male form. We're learning it for the female form. He's studying with Yoseri Sharif and so on, and working on things. And he got a choreography that he was working on with Yoseri and had been doing it for about 10 years. And we did a show in Northampton or somewhere. And we did our bit, and then Tony comes out and he does his bit. We go off stage, and it was one of those moments of, all right, that was it. And Tony goes, "Yeah, okay, I think I'm going to start retiring that. I've done that a lot.
Oh,
I'm going to retire it." And all of us in unison went, "No, it's just starting to get good." And he went, "What?" We're like, "No, no, you can't. You're starting to move. Like, you're going to a new level with it.
yeah.
Like, you can't stop." Because there is subtlety in it. Because Tony is, as you know, is a phenomenally intelligent, gifted man. He's a wonderful human being, nuclear engineer by day, Middle Eastern dancer by night. But walking like he is a walking phallus is not in his nature. And one of
No.
the things about our art form is there comes a part at which he needs to walk out on stage with the asa held strong, and he needs to be basically walking like, "I am going to have all of you when I choose, and
Yep.
it will be like, he has to have that almost toxic, not fully toxic, but almost toxic, like, strength
Swagger.
of swagger. And that's not, like he's a very, that's Tony's, Tony's a guy, but he's not that guy. So he had to really work on that level of almost condescension, which he found uncomfortable, but
Yeah.
added a flavor to his performance, especially when he moves out of it into his normal, open-hearted, come join me on this celebration.
Yeah.
And it brings you in, because there's a little part of you that, and I know I'm going down a rabbit hole, so I will try to stop. There's a choreographer named Mariana Parra who we were learning flamenco for. And he was about mid-70s when I took a class with him. And when he walked in the room, I literally fell back, because he walked in the room, and by nature, like he's just walking, he moved like a tiger.
Mm-hmm.
And his balance and his grace and everything, but he was so fluid and he was so present that it was that even walking into the room, I was like, oh, whoa.
Yeah.
We're going to learn something today. And that's kind of what's happening to me with this music, is I'm noticing, like, I also had trouble with the misogyny. I also had trouble with the violence of it. But I understand that a lot of that comes from the pain of, can't you see what's happening? Can't you see what's happening to us? What we're experiencing, what we're going through. And so I now can be kind of, present with that and recognize it's like, that's not my experience, but I can see that that's where your history is and where you're coming from, and have complete respect for that.
Mm-hmm.
I still find, some of it doesn't read for me, but that's because the diversity of it is broad. Angel, you are so helpful. Thank you, dog. So what would you want the takeaway to be from this episode for people? Because we're kind of just talking about music theory, music history, all of that. What lesson would you like for people to lean into?
I really think leaning into the musicality and the poetry of language, not putting on highfalutin words because they sound highfalutin, but tuning your ear, practicing listening for phrases that sound lovely together. It's a reason why alliteration sounds so nice. Consonation, when words start with the same letter or have the same dominant vowel sound. Right? There's a reason why when a phrase is really great, as you sat back with that flamenco instructor, I would encourage people to, if they're not already, be actively tuning their ear for rhythm and flow and poetry.
Awesome.
How about you?
So mine is going to be, don't be afraid of the speed, because that was what held me back from learning this music, was because I felt stupid, because I couldn't easily understand what was being said. I pulled back from it because I was like, well, I feel dumb. I feel excluded. And to just go ahead and be, lean into that. Like, look up the words, stop, rewind, play it again, and kind of understand, I'm not somebody that I can't do that level of syncopation. I can't do that speed. But am I going to practice? Oh, hell yes. Because my fluidity could only improve if I'm able to achieve that level. So that's something I'm gonna add in, and I would like you all to sympathize with my teenager if he ever listens to his 54-year-old mother rapping. So
even Eminem has to practice, and had to practice before he got decent, much less great.
Yes, and there's a link that we'll put in the show notes in which he really talks about the importance of practice. And it's like, thank you so much. Yes, everybody has to practice. Once you stop practicing, your craft starts to die. I know we say that a lot, but honestly, I think we should make some t-shirts. It's like maybe coffee mugs and kind of put it out there in the world. But that's what today is. So in the comments, what are your thoughts? What's your experience? What's your history with it? What's your favorite artist? Let us know. Videos you want us to watch. Give us some links. And we will catch you next time. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers.